Hello, my dear students. I hope all of you are doing good. Today, we're going to discuss all the possible questions from Chapter 2, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. So, I would recommend you to watch this video because I have covered all possible questions from this chapter. And you can also watch this video when you're really tired and you can just relax and watch this video, which will also help you learn the answers and also reduce your strain from reading from the textbook. So let's begin. The first question: what was taking place in the sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union buildings in Pretoria? So the answer is it was the oath taking ceremony of the first democratic non racial government in South Africa. Or they can also ask you the question, where was the oath taking ceremony held? So you can say the oath taking ceremony was held in the sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union buildings in Pretoria, South Africa. Okay, I hope that is clear. Let's go to the second question. Why was it an important occasion? So the answer is for decades. Decades means 10 years is called a decade. So for decades means for very many years, this was a seat of only white supremacy. But now it was the site of a rainbow gathering. What do they mean by rainbow gathering? Where dignitaries of more than 140 countries around the world were attending, of various color and race. That is why it is called a rainbow gathering. Along with thousands of people across various race from South Africa to make this day memorable. Also, it would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. So that is why it was an important occasion, because until then it was a seat of only white supremacy where the white colored skinned people were ruling over the dark skinned people in South Africa. Okay, now let's move to the third question. Who was Zenani? Zenani was the daughter of Nelson Mandela. And Mr. Nelson Mandela was accompanied by his daughter Zenani during the swearing in ceremony. Fourth question. Nelson Mandela says, out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. Now, what is the disaster that the human disaster that he is talking about? He is talking about apartheid. So I have also explained what apartheid is. Apartheid is a system of racial discrimination against the dark-skinned people in South Africa. They were subjected to deprivation, poverty, injustice, abuse, and widespread suffering. So the human disaster that Mr. Nelson Mandela is talking about is apartheid, which is racial discrimination against the dark-skinned people. Fifth question. What glorious human achievement is Nelson Mandela talking about in his speech? So if you remember his speech, he says, the sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. So what human achievement is Mr. Nelson Mandela talking about? Nelson Mandela states that they have at last achieved political emancipation. What is emancipation? Is freedom or liberty. These dark skinned people were considered outlaws not so long ago, have now been given the rare privilege to host the different nations of the world in their own soil. So he says that not long ago that we were discriminated and we were subjected to a lot of pain, but finally they had achieved political liberty from apartheid, and they were given the privilege to host the different nations. So that itself is a great or glorious human achievement. The sixth question: what ideals does he set out for the future of South Africa? He pledges to liberate. Liberate is free. All people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender discrimination, and other unjust treatment. He says that never again shall there be oppression of one another, and the sun shall never set on such a glorious human achievement. So, all of this you would have to learn. So, make sure you watch this video over and over again, so all these answers come quite naturally to you. The seventh one: what does the spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers signify? So it signifies two things. The first is it displays pinpoint precision, and it also demonstrates the military's loyalty to the democracy, to a new government that has been freely and fairly elected. So it demonstrates pinpoint precision and also the military's loyalty to the new found government. Eighth one: which was the harshest and the most inhuman societies the world has ever known? The white-skinned people of South Africa patching up their differences. So they all coming together by patching up their differences and erecting a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. This structure creates the basis of the harshest and the most inhuman societies the world has ever known. So what is it? White-skinned people forgetting all their differences and coming together and doing racial discrimination against the dark skinned people of their own land, not even of some other country. So, that is what is considered as the most harshest and the most inhuman society the world has ever known. Ninth one: who does Nelson Mandela give credit for achieving freedom? Nelson Mandela says that it was due to the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of his people, whose suffering and courage can never be repaid or counted, and also the sum of all those African patriots who have fought before him. So he says that it is the combined effort of all these people that has led to them achieving freedom. The 10th one: how long would they take to recover from the policy of apartheid? Apartheid has created a deep and lasting wound to the people, and he says that they would spend many years or maybe even generations to recover from that profound hurt. Profound means deep. So the recover wouldn't be soon, but it would be many years or even many generations. 11th one: what according to Nelson Mandela is his country's greatest wealth? He says that though his country is rich in minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, the greatest wealth of their country is its people. 12th one. When did he learn about the meaning of courage? And what is courage according to him? Him here means Nelson Mandela. So the first question is when, and the next question is what is courage according to him? Nelson Mandela states that it is from the comrades during the times of struggle that he learnt the meaning of courage. He has seen both men and women risk and give their lives for an idea, and he has seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking and showing resilience and strength that defies all imagination. Therefore, he says that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So, this is what he says courage is according to him. What is courage? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the victory over it or triumph over it. So, brave men are not who do not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And when did he learn? He learned from the comrades and also the men and women who risked their lives for an idea and standing up to attacks and torture without breaking and showing resilience and strength. The 13th one. Which does he think is natural? Love or hate? And give explanation. He says that no one is born hating another person because of the color of the skin or his religion. Therefore, people must learn to hate each other because it does not come naturally. And if they can learn to hate, they can also be taught to love because loving others come more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So, which is more natural? He says love is more natural, and one has to be taught to hate someone else because of their skin color or religion. 14th one. Which situation gave him reassurance and kept him going? During the most miserable times in prison, even when he was pushed to his limits, he would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, even just for a second. And that was enough to reassure him and keep him going because a man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden, but it can never be extinguished. So that situation kept him going and gave him reassurance. Even if he could see a glimmer of humanity, even just for a second, and that kept him going. The 15th question. What twin obligations does every man have? So every man has two obligations. One is to his family, which is to his parents, to his wife and children. And the other obligation is to his people, his community and his country. So these are the twin obligations that are mentioned. 16th one. When did he develop a hunger for freedom? When he realized that his childhood freedom was an illusion and that his freedom had already been taken away from him, that he began to feel a hunger towards it. 17th question. What made him join the African National Congress? When Nelson Mandela slowly started to realize that not only was he not free, but his brothers and sisters were also not free. It was not just his freedom that was curtailed. Curtailed means controlled or curbed. But the freedom of everyone who looked like him. And that is when he joined the African National Congress. That is when his hunger for his own freedom became the greatest hunger for the freedom of his people. 18th one. How was his freedom transformed when he started to fight for their freedom? He transformed from a frightened young man into a bold one. He was a law abiding attorney who became a criminal, and he turned from a family loving husband into a man without a home and lived life like a monk. So, this is how he transformed when he started to fight for their freedom. The last question. Why does he believe that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed? A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred, and he is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindedness. Therefore, a person is not truly free if he takes away the freedom of another person. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity, and hence both should be liberated. So the person, the oppressor, is also a prisoner of hatred, and he's locked behind prejudice and narrow mindedness. So both the oppressed and the oppressor are robbed of humanity, and both should be liberated. I hope you found this video helpful. Please share this video among your friends so they can also gain from it. And a lot of pain has been taken to create these videos. So if you haven't subscribed, please support and subscribe so that I can continue to make great videos for you that will benefit you in your examination. Thank you and God bless.